Hello, everybody, and welcome. In this session today, we're going to be talking about our new package, Platform Toolkit, which you may have already heard a little bit about in our keynote and roadmap sessions this week. I'm Tom. I'm a technical product manager with our platform group. I'm responsible for cross-platform features and initiatives. I'm a product manager, but I'm also a game developer. I've shipped games on many platforms on my own and with teams, and I've been working in and around Unity for a very long time.
I'm Roman Osipov. I'm a senior developer on the Platform Toolkit team. I've been a platform developer at Unity for close to a decade, and I'm super excited to showcase our new package.
So here's a little agenda for what we're going to be talking about in this session. We're going to have an overview of what is Platform Toolkit and why is Platform Toolkit. Features. We're going to have a look at the runtime features of PT, what kind of games you can make with it, what problems it tries to solve. Tools. What else comes with Platform Toolkit, how those tools help you make games more easily, and then code. We'll take a real deep dive into the deep code and show you how easy it is to use Platform Toolkit. And as much fun as it would be to leave all the juicy details until the end, we'll try and answer all the most important questions up front. But first, we're going to cover a little bit of background.
Unity is a cross-platform engine. One of its greatest strengths is the ability to power games across multiple platforms. Write once and run anywhere is the aspiration. If you've ever developed a cross-platform game, you will know that there are some parts of writing a Unity game that normally just work. Graphics, animation, shaders, game logic, and so. You can always optimize, but generally they just work out of the box.
And if you have done this before, you'll also know that there are some parts of making a multi-platform game that Unity does not handle for you. For example, systems and services integration. So what do we mean by that? Think of features that are either unique to a platform or require platform-specific SDKs to interact with. With some platforms, correct handling of these systems and services are a requirement of the certification processes required for developers to release on a given platform. There's often a steep learning curve with these, and today, to solve these problems, customers have got to write their own platform-specific code to handle them. With platform certification being a requirement of releasing a game, this is a problem that all cross-platform games need to solve to get to release. And today, that's a problem that developers own.
If you had not had a pleasure of handling cross-platform systems and services before, I think there's a good example we can look at. What's something that almost every game needs to do? Something that needs to be handled differently across every platform. Something that might be surprising for developers targeting consoles or mobiles for the first time. That would be save games. I think it's a great example. There are many easy choices a developer can make early in development that get them up and running quickly, but might not be the best long-term solution for their game. Here you can see in our image a developer about to make a poor choice. Player prefs might be fine for a game jam, but let's imagine our developer here finds success and tries to bring their games to a console platform, which has strict cert requirements. This is where our developer learns about platform cert.
And if you've not gone through a cert process like this before, it's where a platform holder takes a really close look at your game and makes sure that it complies with all of the requirements that ensure that their customers get a good experience. When we're talking about save games, platform cert requirements mean things like you can't just write files to anywhere you like on a device. You've got to associate those save files with a particular user account. You've got to use platform-specific APIs to write your files. You've got to write things like not too quickly, not too often, not too much. And Player Prefs was never designed to handle any of that. It knows nothing about platform accounts and nothing about cert requirements.
So our developer must learn platform-specific rules and requirements for this new platform. And so they quickly become or hire a platform specialist. Perhaps they fail cert a few times as they're learning the complexities of this new platform. They finally ship their game, and they're now aware of these hurdles for their future games. But, of course, then the developer wants to release the game on the next platform, and they basically have to do it all over again. Perhaps at this point, they're writing and maintaining their own tools and handling these platform differences.
If only there existed a cross-platform way of handling all these common cross-platform features. Well, allow me to introduce Platform Toolkit. PT is a new package coming with 6.3 designed to provide the following things. A single asynchronous API to use for handling user accounts, achievements, save files, controller management, and a set of platform support packages to make sure those features work on many different platforms, and a suite of editor tools that makes it possible to configure and test those supported features inside the editor.
We wanted Platform Toolkit to work without conditional compilation, making code simpler and easier to test. We wanted our implementations to be certification compliant, so developers could pass cert more reliably. And finally, we wanted all our features to be testable in the editor, so building and testing games was quicker.
For our first release, we're focusing on what we're calling mandatory cross-platform features. These are features that are found across multiple platforms, but are mandatory for certification on at least one of those platforms. So for example, achievements exist across multiple platforms and are mandatory for passing cert on some of them. So even though not all platforms have them and not all platforms make them a cert requirement, we choose to include those as a supported feature.
Also, for our first version, we're supporting single-player games and local multiplayer games. To keep things clear, we're not looking at online multiplayer games at this time. That doesn't mean you cannot build an online multiplayer game and still use Platform Toolkit in your project, but Platform Toolkit will not try to solve issues that are related to online multiplayer, at least for now.
We wanted to ensure that the user experience was absolutely as good as it could be, so we've been using Platform Toolkit internally since the very beginning. During development, we built several test games, and these include abstract test menus that just exercise common flows. We've made a clicker game, which used the achievement system and the saving system for storing progress, and we built a full cert-compliant local multiplayer game. We've also performed periodic test integrations into full game projects, and we've been working with our close platform partners to ensure that the implementations are ready for production. And while our test games were not always the most fun to play, we use Platform Toolkit in its entirety for all of the cross-platform things. Our full game test project works on all of our target platforms, and where possible, that's gone through the same certification testing that your games will go through. You can see here in the green the message that we got when we passed cert for Xbox, which was the first full cert pass we went through, and we passed first time. We've also had test builds of this same project in Nintendo's certification process for Nintendo Switch 2, returning 0 issues. So a big shout out to the Platform Toolkit team, because these were very proud moments for us.
That's enough of the background. Let's get back to the features. I think it's helpful to think about the Platform Toolkit in these 3 parts. The features that we support in the Runtime API that actually interact with the platform systems and services in your build player, the editor components that let you configure Platform Toolkit, and the tools that let you test these features in the editor, and the actual platform support packages that provide the runtime implementations for specific platforms and ecosystems.
When we launch Platform Toolkit, the following platform support packages will be available. You can see here we have all the current gen consoles. We've got GDK on Windows. We've got the main mobile platforms. And while we know this isn't absolutely everything, the team is still working on adding additional platform support. And more platforms will be coming next year. I hope this is an exciting list for you. But if there's something in your mind, a platform that's not on this list, I would very much like to hear from you.
Tom, what is that platform in the middle there?
Oh, yeah, that's a good call out. I nearly forgot. One platform that is actually a first for Unity in terms of official support is Steam, which is also launching when we launch Platform Toolkit with 6.3. I've personally integrated this into a game project of mine, and it is really lovely to work with.
So what can you do with the Platform Toolkit API right now? Platform Toolkit lets you handle system-level accounts. For a lot of platforms, this is required to do basically anything with a platform. For a lot of platforms, this is required to do, well, that's the same sentence. Save games and achievements are associated with the accounts, so this is a great place to start. We support super simple workflows where you only want a single primary account for your game, through to handling multiple accounts at the same time, where everyone is unlocking achievements and saving their own progress separately. You can get account-related data, like profile pictures and account usernames, so you can personalize your UIs.
We also provide an API for unlocking achievements, including regular and progress type achievements. We provide an API for accessing storage so that you can make your save game files. You can get a saving interface from accounts, and those saves will be associated with those accounts. Or on some platforms, you can get what we're calling a local saving system that lets you make files that are not associated with accounts. Our saving system is the same, regardless of where it comes from, which makes it very easy to support both, where that's a thing, and even move saves between them, where that makes sense.
We provide an API for controller account mapping. On platforms that support controller ownership, you can use this API to work out what controllers go with what accounts. This is so you can make sure that in-game actions are mapped to players and ensure that right achievements get associated with the right in-game player.
There's also our data store API, which is our player prefs-like API, which makes loading and saving data even easier if you're not into making custom binary formats.
Finally, our API lets you know what capabilities to expect, so you can write simple code to handle differences in platform behaviors. and our attributes let you customize the behavior of the account API, but we'll come to that a little later.
So before we go any further, I think it's a good idea for us to take a quick look at a very simple code example. It's going to be a while till we really get into the deep code. So this simple example will help us when we're thinking about the features that we'll look at later on. For our very, very simple example, we're going to need a start method. Now notice that this is an async start method. It isn't strictly required. You can do things in a different way if you like, but this does make stuff very, very easy. Our whole API is asynchronous. This is because almost all platform APIs are async, and we don't want to be freezing the game when we're trying to save in the background. So it's important that you handle these things as async from the very start. First, we're going to initialize Platform Toolkit by awaiting a call to initialize. Next, we're going to establish the primary account. In a lot of cases, this will return the account we're interested in just on its own. For us, we don't mind. We just get whatever is established as the primary account right now. Next, we get the achievement system from that account. And finally, in this very basic example, we're going to unlock an achievement. And that's it. That is the whole code sample. And this will absolutely work on some platforms.
But don't actually do it this way. If you want your game to work across platforms, this won't always work. The user might actually refuse to sign in. That's a thing that can happen on some platforms. What would happen if the platform didn't actually support achievements of any kind? We should probably test for that too. We'll take a look later at what kind of things need to be considered when using Platform Toolkit across platforms. But don't worry, we provide all the tools you need to make this work.
So we've talked a little bit about features. We've had a look at a minimal example, but we're not just a runtime feature package. We also support all of Platform Toolkit's features in editor play mode, so you can test your flows around the features we provide without ever having to deploy to a device. So what are we going to look at in this section? We're going to break it into three parts. We'll have, while we're in the editor, we'll look at the installation of Platform Toolkit, and we'll look at what it takes to configure Platform Toolkit, and then we'll have a look at what it looks like when you're testing games in the editor, when you're taking advantage of Platform Toolkit.
First, project setup. Here's the package manager, as I'm sure you know. Here you can install the Platform Toolkit core package and any platform support packages you want. The core package provides everything you need to get started: the API, all the editor tooling, and the editor implementation, so you can test all the Platform Toolkit features in the editor. The platform support packages provide everything you need to build on the given platform, plus additional behavior files that make the editor play mode behave more like the platform you installed. So we install the package, and we want to get this project set up. Luckily, once you have the packages installed, you'll get the Platform Toolkit menu. This is how you find our windows, like the Play Mode Controls window and the Achievement Editor window.
So let's go now into the Play Mode Controls window. The only thing you need to do in here right now for setup is to create the Play Mode Controls settings asset, and that's just one click, and that's it. You're set up for using Platform Toolkit in the editor. And if you're wondering how our editor implementation works, it's all simulated using the data that's created for you when we make this asset. Things like save files, achievement data, test accounts, profile pictures. It's this data that lets Platform Toolkit run in the editor without having to build and deploy to a device. And a set of data is made for you when you create the asset. You can absolutely go in here and customize all of these test accounts if you like, and add new ones. And you can also have more of these assets if you want, set up in different states. So you can have one set up with fresh users who've never started your game before, and one with 100% save file for testing your end game content. These are just assets in your project, so you can share these with your team and have a good starting point for testing.
So here's the Play Mode Controls window again. We have the asset already set up, and we're switched to the Test Account Data tab. You can lock and unlock or totally reset achievement data from here, view save files, import and export those saves. All your test data is here, and you can watch it update in real time while you're in play mode. Moving over to the other tab on the Play Mode Controls window, you can see the controls used while in play mode. And, well, this is how the window gets its name.
Zooming in here for a moment on the behavior dropdown, this is the dropdown we use to tell Platform Toolkit's editor implementation what type of capabilities to express when you next enter play mode. You can tell Platform Toolkit to run in play mode like it's a mobile platform, with one concurrent user and local storage available, or more like a console, where you've got multiple concurrent users supported, but local storage is right out. It's not a complete simulation of a platform, but it's just different sets of capabilities being expressed, but it will let you exercise all of your game's UI and flows from within the editor.
Going back to the full view, this window is also where you can configure the state of the test accounts, who's signed in, who, if anyone, is the primary account. You can map input devices to accounts here too, to test the input ownership feature. The system controls here also let you test the failure cases, such as network going out, the storage being full, and also enable long-running tasks, so you can test all your cool UI spinners and loading screens. If you're testing a platform behavior that supports account signing in during the game, this UI will also become a sign-in screen mirroring like platforms that have those.
Next, we'll take a look at our other window. This is the achievement editor, and this one is relatively uncomplicated. It's where you configure the achievements that Platform Toolkit is going to be working with. You get a column here for the generic data and a column for every platform package you have installed. What's really nice here is you can even import and export achievement data as CSV, and you can edit this in a spreadsheet if you prefer, if you've got loads of achievements you want to work with. And everything that we've looked at so far is for play mode, but we also have a window here for when you decide what platform you want to build for. So this is the settings window for that. This is where you choose which of the installed implementations are included with each build target. So do you want the Steam implementation or the Windows Store implementation when you build for Windows? This is where you configure that. Right, that was a lot of editor UI all at once, and I thank you for your attention. Let us just rest our eyes for a second. Right, now that we're rested, the next and most obvious question is, can we please see some code? So let's have a look at how you actually integrate Platform Toolkit into your project with examples that we then won't tell you not to use. So let's begin our deep dive into the various features of Platform Toolkit, and we're going to start with the account system. On many platforms, a lot of platform-specific functionality is tucked behind accounts. So when using Platform Toolkit, one of the first things you're going to want to do is get access to an account. The behavior of accounts can be wildly different across platforms, and PT is going to do its very best to make this as simple as possible.
Let's look at how we get an account. In this example, we'll be establishing the primary account. In Platform Toolkit, we rely on the platform to tell us which account is the primary. Usually this is the account that launched the game, or the account that was used to sign into the service, though some platforms can be configured to not support the primary account at all. So first, on line 3, we check if the primary account is supported. For this, we use our Capabilities API. The Capabilities is a set of flags, essentially, that lets us know which features are supported by the current platform. You will see us use the Capabilities API throughout the presentation when we check what kind of saving system we can use and our achievements supported, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Next, on line 5, we attempt to establish the primary account. Some platforms don't start a game with the primary account, and Platform Toolkit will use this call as a way to ask the system to sign someone in. So if we're running on Steam, establish will immediately return the one through Steam account. On Android, if no account is signed in, establish will prompt the user to sign in. So this can result in a native UI being shown to the user in some cases, and is why establish returns a task, because it basically can run for a while. Once the task completes, we get back the account object. Now, let's look at the ways the establish a primary account can fail. On line 8, we try to catch a user refusal exception. It is thrown if the player refuses to sign into their account. Imagine the user being shown a sign-in dialog, and they just cancel it. In that case, establish will throw the user refusal exception. On line 12, we catch a temporarily unavailable exception, which is thrown whenever the action cannot be performed right now. Often this happens when network isn't available, or maybe we have exceeded the limit of how many times we can try and sign someone in. And one more thing to note here, on some platforms like mobiles, we might never be able to sign in, and the game should be prepared to run without an account.
If you're making a local multiplayer game and you want everybody signed in and unlocking achievements, you can do that too with Platform Toolkit. Some platforms just give you a list of all the accounts, and some require you to explicitly sign them in one by one. On platforms that support an explicit account sign-in prompt, you can use the account picker to request an account be selected and signed in. In this example, on line 3, we start by checking the capabilities. This time we check to see if the platform supports showing the account picker. Then on line 5, the account picker prompt is here, and we await its completion. The selected account is then signed in and returned. And like with the primary establish, the user can dismiss the prompt, and so we handle the user refusal exception here on line 8.
Accounts have different pieces of data associated with them, such as names, aliases, IDs, avatars. In Platform Toolkit, we call these account attributes. In order to access attributes, they first need to be given a name. Here's the attribute UI, which is found in the project settings for each platform you have installed. On the left column, we select which piece of platform-specific data will be returned by an attribute. Each platform exposes its own set of data that can be returned. In this example, we see some GDK values, such as gamertag modern, but on iOS, you will see other iOS-specific values, such as player alias and similar. On the right column, we define a custom name by which the attribute will be retrieved. In this case, we assign the name main menu name to gamertag modern. We'll later use this attribute to display the player's username in the main menu. On other platforms, we can assign different values to the attribute main menu name, or we can leave the attribute undefined. And in this code example, we actually retrieve the main menu name attribute, which we just defined. First, on line 3, we check if an attribute of type string with a name main menu name is defined. We do that by calling the account has attribute method. We chose to only define this attribute on platforms where we will show the username in the main menu. So if you look on line 12, if the attribute is not defined, we hide the UI that would display the name. But if the attribute is defined, we display the UI, but first, on line 5, we call the getAttribute method to get the attribute value. Recall that on GDK, that would be gamertag modern in this case. And finally, we catch an invalid account exception. This exception is thrown when we try to use an account that was signed out previously. In this case, both hasAttribute and getAttribute methods can throw invalid account exception. On some platforms, users can sign out at basically any time, so it's important to catch this exception whenever we use accounts or related features. So note, though, that we use attributes both to retrieve a piece of account information and to express a slightly different behavior for different platforms.
All right, next up for our deep dive is achievements. A couple of notes here. The achievements are mandatory on many platforms, but they're not available everywhere. Some platforms have something functionally identical, but not called achievements, and we support those too. The editor tools we looked at for configuring them will make sure that you have the correct data when you build, but we'll also warn you if you try and unlock something that doesn't exist. Since not all platforms support achievements, you can see in this example, first we're checking the capabilities of the platform. We get our achievement system from the account, since accounts are associated with achievements. The achievement system supports 2 types, progress and regular. Regular achievements are unlocked with a fire and forget one-shot method, and progress achievements take a progress value, and the system will unlock the achievement when it reaches the progress target. The progress value is passed through to the platform as well, where the platform supports such things, so that native UI can show progress. Now, not all platforms support this, and not all platforms store progress in the same way. For example, on iOS, progress is stored as a percentage. So while the translation for an achievement where you have to collect 1,000 eggs may be lossy, the unlock will still happen when you expect. Since achievements are account-based, the user could sign out in the middle of all this, and that's typically not a big deal for achievements, but we have to handle that exception. Next up, we'll take a brief detour into input ownership. Now, this is an API that lets you work out which accounts own which input devices on platforms that have that kind of association. This is not always available for a few reasons. The platform must have accounts, and it must have a tight coupling between accounts and input devices. For input ownership, our input system package is also required. So here in this example, we can see that we're unlocking an achievement for a given input device. So the input device here is a standard Unity input system device. And since this is a fairly niche feature and only supported on a few platforms, on line 3, we of course check that input ownership is supported using our capabilities. And then on lines 5 and 6, we get the account that owns the input device. Next, we check that the account's not null. A null in this case would imply that the input device is not owned currently by any account. And finally, we unlock the achievement for the controller and the account that perform that action.
Next up for a deep dive, we'll be saving. For saving things, things can be simple if you're only targeting one class of device, but throw another platform type into the mix, and you're going to have to handle more and more edge cases. Again, capabilities will help here. We'll show some more examples. To do any saving with Platform Toolkit, reading or writing, we'll need to get access to a saving system. We can get a saving system from different places. Usually, we get our saving system from an account. A lot of platform saves belong to a particular user. For saves that are tied to an account, we get the saving system by calling account get saving system. You can see that on line 7. But before we do that, we should check the account saving if the account saving is supported. We do that via the account saving capability. On some platforms, we also expose the local saving system. The local saving system writes saves directly to disk. We don't support the system on platforms where saves must be tied to an account, such as consoles. But on platforms where accounts are optional, like mobiles, sometimes the local saving system is all we have. Now, whether we're using the account saving system or the local saving system, the saving system interface remains the same. And finally, we're also handling an invalid account exception here for when an account has signed out. And now that we have the saving system, in our second saving example, we're going to save some data. Let's first open a save as writable with openSaveWritable method. See here that when opening the save, we provide a unique name. All saves in the system must have a unique name. If the save does not exist, openSaveWritable will open a new save. Another important thing to note here is that save objects are disposable. Because we only allow one instance of a particular save that can be opened at a time, it is paramount that we dispose of a save. Otherwise, we can get into a situation where we no longer can open a save because we forgot to close it previously and it's open somewhere floating around. To ensure that dispose is called, we start line 3 with an await using statement. This will guarantee that the dispose async is called. Next, we await writing 2 files into the save. The files are simply byte arrays. It's up to you how you wish to serialize your data. And last thing to do is to call commit to actually tell the system to write the files into the save. Before we call commit, any changes we make to the save are not final, but calling commit ensures that all files get written out together. Note that this can fail for various reasons, but in that failure case, no changes are actually written, and no partial writes here. A save should be considered a whole and atomic thing. We don't recommend splitting the game state across multiple saves. Many platforms have rules around consistency and also allow players to change saves externally to the game, so they can move, copy the saves, or even delete them. This can even be a problem on platforms that support cloud saves. But not to worry, as you can see here, we're writing multiple files into one save, so you can store a bunch of data like that. If the saving system is tied to an account, we of course catch the invalid account exception. We also catch not enough space exception, which, well, sort of self-explanatory, but it's especially important if you allow your players to write arbitrary amount of saves. Though on most platforms, this exception can be totally prevented by limiting the number of saves that user can create. And finally, we catch a generic IO exception, which is thrown in very rare cases. It is likely the user will never encounter this error, but best thing to do here is to just prompt that saving has failed, allowed to retry later.
A quick diagram here of the structure of a save system. As we mentioned, a save system can have many saves, all with unique names, and those saves can store many named files under them. As you can see, the saves can be all of different sizes and compositions, and one of these could be a game save, and one could be settings, for example. In our final example here, we're going to take a look at reading from a save, and we have the saving system cached here. And as long as the account's signed in, that's totally fine to do. First, we check to see if the save exists, which we do here on line 2. What to do if a save doesn't exist is entirely game dependent. So imagine we've got a save slot select screen, and maybe we just don't show a button for the second slot if that save doesn't exist yet. On lines 6 and 7, we're going to open the save, and then on 8 and 9, we read both of the files that we wrote before, and we can rely that these files were written if the save exists, so we can just load them completely safely. And that's really all there is to it, except we need to handle the case where the file is corrupted, which is super rare, but you should handle this and inform the user. Best we can do here is probably just to delete the file, since it's kind of unrecoverable when this does happen. And we also handle the IO exception for when reading fails for less terrifying reasons. Still super rare, but it's important to let the user know, although it's possible this is recoverable, so we should let the user try again.
Another option for saving is our data store helper class. If you're not a big fan of reading and writing byte arrays or serializing data, then you might be interested in our data store API, which is a little helper to make saving games more like using Unity Engine player prefs class. We get the saving system as before by calling the account getSavingSystem method. But this time we pass it, along with a name, into the data store load method, which will open and read a data store file, the save specifically like my save 1 in this example. Then you can keep a hold of this data store object and call set and get methods on it to set the values and get them back. It works sort of similar to dictionary. If you use player press, it's very similar. At the moment, data store supports ints, floats, and string values. While working with a data store, your data is held in memory, and when you call save, it's at that point that everything gets written out to disk. And of course, we need to handle all the same exceptions related to reading and writing saves as we did before, and the exception related to account signing out.
So that's a look at how all of the main features of Platform Toolkit are going to work. That's accounts, achievement saving, input ownership, data store capabilities, all working across all of our platforms. Just install the platform support package and away you go. All working in the editor without ever having to deploy to a device. With Platform Toolkit, it's now possible to write and test games that handle user accounts, save games, achievements, etc., without ever deploying to a dev kit or a phone. We still recommend you do that, by the way. With Platform Toolkit, it's possible to handle platform systems and services without any conditional compilation. With Platform Toolkit, porting to a new platform can be as simple as just installing a new package. With Platform Toolkit, it's easier than ever to pass platform certification by relying on our cert-compliant implementations. Developers that we've shared preview builds with have reported the time to integrate Platform Toolkit has been as little as half a day. They then deployed builds onto multiple platforms, including consoles and Steam, and they ran without issue. I took a game project of mine and added Steam support, including achievements, in just a couple of hours, and that included writing all the puns needed for a list of 30+ achievements. I've written and maintained platform-specific code for multi-platform games before, and I'm so pleased that I will now never have to do that again.
So when can you get your hands on all of these lovely packages?
That's a great question. Platform Toolkit, the core package, is available when 6.3 launches in the package manager. The core package is available to all Unity developers and comes with support for the local saving system to get you started. You can pick this up and explore the API, learn how it works, and be integrating Platform Toolkit into your projects right away. The platform support packages on this list will also be available when 6.3 launches to developers with pro licenses at no additional cost. We hope that this feature will help you bring your next game to more platforms. It was genuinely a huge effort to get all of these implementations ready for launch, and much kudos to the team. Shout out to them. Over the next few months, we're going to be adding some more platforms. And of course, it's possible you're looking at this list and thinking of a platform that you would like to see support for. And I can't wait to hear from you. You come and find me after this, and we can talk. We have plenty of ideas for how to expand the feature set of Platform Toolkit. But before we commit to too much more, we wanted to get our V1 out into the world and have a chance for developers to see it, talk about it, and then tell us what they would like to see. Here are the main things that I hope you take away from this session. That Platform Toolkit is designed to help you target more platforms with lower risk, that it can help reduce iteration time by letting you test more in the editor, that it can help pass certification more reliably. PT is available when 6.3 launches, it's production ready, and our wonderful team is standing by to help you. Platform Toolkit is in active development, so more is on the way, and your feedback now can help shape our roadmap. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you have a great Unite.